So my dear ones, here I am again, Jenny Solaria Delfini, online with love for part 2 of Soul vs. Nephilim. And I've received a lot of feedback that you got a lot of help from this video, that you can understand much more about what's really going on here, and that you would be happy to hear more details. And I know there's still a lot to say, but I will now limit it to the minimum so that you can make better decisions. So that you simply know if you are affected by being a Nephilim or being guided by them, whatever the case, you should also get assistance with this second part. But first, let's see what else there is to say. So, if I break it down to another level, the psychological level, you could say there are people who are very much in their ego, and then there are people who are not so much in their ego, who just want to serve and are always there for others. There are basically the naysayers when someone asks for help, and there are the yes-sayers. Even here, you could already make the distinction between soul and Nephilim. You can give yourself the answer right now. The Nephilim are not really interested in serving others. This is evident in their entire professional profile, or how they simply earn their money. So they don't serve, they earn, they do it wrong. They serve wrongly, so to speak, because they serve the matrix. That means they are really concerned with making money, and they think most about how to get money. This thought process is just one example. There are many others proving your spiritual guidance by the Nephilim, my soul, even if you can't imagine it, because you always only go from your perspective and what you've experienced yourself. A soul doesn't want to earn money, but it says, yes, it's okay, I'm so happy with what I have. That's something a Nephilim can't imagine, that you feel joy, happiness and gratitude from within yourself without needing anything for it. That's the quality of the soul. It's a trait that's basically with you and is independent of what's outside. And in this way, you can also recognize certain moments in your spiritual guidance or in your everyday life, in your thoughts. If you're basically in the ego, then the Nephilim guide you, and they also tempt you to be in the ego. Actually, our whole life long, we are tested by ourselves, by others, by the matrix, by movies, by questions. Throughout life, from morning to evening, you get offers, spiritual and also physical offers, and also astral offers. And every time you choose the ego, you choose the Nephilim. And if you count that up to your 21st birthday, then you've already drawn the basic balance, your balance sheet, so to speak, which being or which entity in you is allowed to guide you. And regardless of that, you know yourself that children are led and tempted by the Nephilim from at least the age of 2. So, until the age of 21, there's a fight for the body. We constantly have the little devil and the little angel. The soul is sometimes in the children, then you have the Nephilim again. The sum of the decisions in the innermost core of the being that can stay in the body longer, which has made the most agreements, then gets the spiritual guidance. 21. When the parents step back, you can see what's left. And since there are simply too many today who indulge in AI, who can't imagine anything else than ordering their C-section via app during pregnancy, and there are no natural habits anymore among young people, they are basically seduced by the Nephilim. And I know that many mothers always write to me about how sad and desperate they are because they've lost their children. But they haven't lost their children, but it's a test for every soul that comes down here, even if they were once ensouled. The question arises whether you, as a mother, ensouled them with all your love, or whether they carry the soul from within themselves, connected to the source. Because a soul connected to the source wouldn't endure being at the computer for long. It would stop on its own. It would also have guidance, as all souls currently have, and it must be strong enough and old enough not to succumb to the temptation of the Nephilim. And it would meet people who would dissuade it from agreeing, maybe to get out of it. And especially if you are this family member and there is a soul in your household and they still indulge in AI, the phone, and the society out there, then it's not guidance from the source, because then it would use you for that. And yes, Mom, please get me out of here, let me get away, let's come up with something. It would fully support you and leave. And it would let go. It wouldn't say from the ego, yes, but I need my best friend, I need my house cat, I need this and that to be happy. Exactly what souls don't do. They would always choose natural freedom. Just to preface, if your children aren't like that, you already have the temptation and spiritual guidance of the Nephilim in your children's bodies. And that's a test, and that's why you're there. And there's a scene at every corner that would help us make the right decision. Only the free will, and that they then come and ask you for help, that must come from them. And as long as that doesn't happen, the Nephilim have the spirit. So much for your own decisions. You don't have to stay in the place for your children because they chose the Nephilim and you think, yes, they are my children. So I want to give no recommendations. I just want you to know inside that it's a matrix and that they can play it very, very well because you always hold on to the D matrix with your main consciousness. Until now, most people don't understand that the decisions are only for the matrix that you make and not for your soul. Why is that? So briefly again, we were pushed into the ego at school and also trained to choose a profession, to study something that we would later become. But guidance from the source of omnipotence is different. It has a different reason. It wants to serve and help, and it always gets exactly the money it needs to continue on its path. And this trust is in the soul from the beginning. It basically grows in the first years when it works independently because it can't be subjugated. So it's very important that you know there's a plan for your life and that you don't have to create one for yourself. Even prenatally, there's a predetermined life task, a life plan from your soul. And if you from the beginning would follow this, so let it follow, then you would always meet the right people, you would always be in the right place at the right time. You would always have enough energy. So that's actually the original plan. Then you have appointments with souls. At the next corner you make the development, then you go there. So that's the original plan. But what does it look like in reality here in the matrix, where you are also shaped by the ego through school, meaning you have the Nephilim spiritual guidance? You naturally imagine your life differently. You want to earn so and so much money, you want to live in this place, maybe near the family, then you want a partner, then you want a car. All that is prescribed here by the matrix. Then you need so and so much money to be happy, so you don't have ahrimanic thoughts and so on. But what if the soul sent you down here and a certain life task, for example, includes, because you lived in abundance in the last life, to live in lack in this life, so in poverty and always just barely making it, surviving every day, because the soul still lacks that experience. One thing. The other thing is, you absolutely want a partner. You would do anything for it. You manipulate men, turn them on with sexual magic. Imagine this could be him now. So this imagining is such high-level magic. It's incredible what you do to a person with it, and you serve the Nephilim again and strengthen the guidance again, instead of trusting that your soul would surely play the partner into your hands if one is meant for you. And at the right time, in the right place, at the right stage of development. Because what if, and also how he looks and how he is. What if your soul had planned not to have a partner in this life? So you just learn what it's like to be only in your feminine side and not have the additional task of a relationship. That's an additional life task, a relationship. Many don't have the energy for it because they are still busy with other things in their stage of development. So that's maybe not intended for you to have children, but you desperately want children. So many women call, and I have a desire for children with the partner, and I imagine where we get married, and I want all this. What if it's not meant for you, and that's why it doesn't work? Or you made decisions for the matrix because you imagine it that way. So, that's your firm conviction. I want to spend my life this way and that way. And with that, you've agreed to the Nephilim in the guidance, and with that, they are then a spiritual guidance. So please think about when you last did that, and when you last had your soul guidance. What exactly do the Nephilim want? They want you to end up in the underworld after your death. That means they count your agreement to the matrix together. And in the end, there's the balance when you leave the body. And then you're sent to the bank account where you've deposited the most. And I've been talking about this the whole time. This is nothing new I'm saying, especially to those who have been with me for many, many years, where I always serve. But create a boundary so that you don't serve the Nephilim, meaning the ego of another, but that you are really there for a soul when it is in need. Otherwise, help yourself with group consciousness and group energy, meeting and making each other aware that there's a Nephilim in the background again, so that no further agreements are made. And for that, you also have to create boundaries yourself and be able to tell yourself what you no longer agree to. That certain Nephilim no longer come into my house, for example, or that the consciousness of a Nephilim with the body will no longer wander in, neither at the table nor anything else. And of course, it's a permanent exorcism that we perform in ourselves and also in others when we lovingly help them to see this path, the way back home. That's the path we're on, the path back to unity. That means we want to return to love and gratitude, right? Isn't that so? Have you already forgotten that? So there are those who really long for nothing more than to finally be in love and gratitude, but have Nephilim guidance because from a previous life, too many agreements, or still a running pact with the devil. Or other ego matrix deposits on the matrix bank account were made maybe 50 years before they met me. How do you want to bring that into order quickly in 7, 8, 9, 10 years if you've always deposited? But I want to have, there's already a homepage in Austria for that. There's so much of it. It's just terrible. That's something that doesn't come from the mouth of a soul, but it's always grateful, content with what it has. And it's incredibly grateful for everything it gets. Interestingly, it always gets everything it needs to live. And it doesn't worry about how it will continue. Because it knows it will always continue. Just that. But I think I've already made a video about souls. Just to conclude, so where you stand in your life now, these things you have created yourself. With your mind, you wanted exactly these things, and that's why things came as they are. But that doesn't mean you found your life task and that you feel fulfilled with what you've done, but you wanted it. So check when the last time your soul was with you and what its life task was, and let go of what's necessary so you can be that again. And in between letting go, whether it's fellow humans, partners, whatever, is part of it to find out in that moment or shortly after what really feels better. So let the omnipotence of love lead and not decide things with the mind. The Nephilim have other plans. As already said in video 1, they sometimes bring you to a place or into certain states of consciousness to also manipulate or seduce others next to you. And to keep them from their path, from their soul task. And you don't even notice it because you have your own movie running all the time. But when people already tell you to your face that you're behaving narcissistically and that you have no empathy and no compassion at the latest, then you should be awake and think, wait a minute, I definitely didn't want to serve the Nephilim. I definitely don't want that. At the latest, then you can say, now it's over, Nephilim, now I'm throwing you out. What I can recommend, by the way, is also my new Oubli. I've processed everything in it that goes over the New Cage resolution and Nephilim and what's still coming here in part 2. I've also worked into it. If you let it run, it will continue to dissolve the Nephilim, the connections, everything. It goes for half an hour, and there's basically everything in it that can be said to free oneself. Especially from previous decisions, e.g. invocations, prayers to gods, to angels, everything. You can take a look if you watch the New Cage intentions now. 14, half of it is included, so everything is included from the Oubli, but again half for Nephilim. And now to the second topic, half Nephilim, because that's something I want to share with you now. So far I've only talked about souls and Nephilim, but there are also half Nephilim. Of course, you can also look back in the Bible and many other records where it became known that the Nephilim had children with earthly women and really couldn't imagine anything else but having this 5-1 connection, if possible with many women, because women are very important to them all the time. And they are the gentlemen, either gentlemen, I think I didn't say that in part 1, I only said that they can also become physically violent. But they can also be the super magicians, the super gentlemen, so nice that they bring the stars down from the sky for the woman. So he knows what women want. And that can also be a super magician who did that to get to the energy source and then take the soul down later because he has wrung endless agreement, because he's her dream man, he's Mr. So perfect and there's no scratch, nothing, and at some point it crashes anyway. But still he tries to keep it up as long as possible, Mr. Perfect. And these resulting children between soul and Nephilim are the so-called half Nephilim. I know many of them, I deal with many of them. Pure Nephilim too, but mostly with half Nephilim. and how you recognize that you know a half Nephilim, that you are one or that you are a Nephilim. A little orientation again. About 3 years ago, I did the origin being channelings, and yes, I want to give help and orientation there. You can basically recognize the mix, the half Nephilim, by their origin being mixed with an animal. So, in this way, they are hybrid beings between animal and soul. And animal and human. Yes, something like that. So either you are a winged being in the origin, either with horns, or you are a winged being like a dragon. So somewhere, maybe also in your tattoos, dragon wings appear. Or you are a centaur, half horse, half human, or a horse with a hill, or you are a mermaid, half fish, half human. You are a cat person, a bird person. But the paladins also count because the Nephilim like this warrior aspect and also have this gentleman, as I just said, mixed with the magician. It can be, so with those I've mentioned so far, it's pretty sure that they are half Nephilim. But there are more. The wolf people are also included, the whales are included, although they are purebred. But here it can be, here it doesn't have to be. But there are, for example, the other reptiles, the turtles, that's definitely also reptilian, so half Nephilim. Then there are the magicians, the very small ones in that sense, because that's their way of communication. They are in magic, they work with magic, they use magic on their counterpart. They constantly think about what they could do to manipulate the other. Of course to their advantage, but they manipulate, they are not in the natural human reaction. And of course I have also seen these things in individual cases and also more often with fairies and goblins. Especially fairies also count among the winged beings, there are winged things again. And also with the goblins because they have more of this animal substance partly, or contracts with the underworld. So I can't say that there's any origin being that's free from the Nephilim, but that they always somehow mix in, and that you can of course find that out yourself. But with the hybrid beings, it's already a pretty clear thing. With the half human, half animal, you can recognize that. And now you can of course say, I don't feel like it anymore, I'm fair, I'm going back to D because it doesn't bring me anything anyway. So if these thoughts are in your head, then you can definitely keep a tally. I would recommend you to make such a table, such a T table. On the left, the sentences or feelings of your soul that come through during the day, and on the right, those of the Nephilim. And then you make a mark at the Nephilim because they want you to stop. And whenever your soul wins, you make sure to make a mark at your soul because it's every day the who comes through to you, and then at the end of the week you can see which phone line is better occupied. And you can also regulate it that way. I would absolutely recommend you always have this note with you. Maybe in a small book, you buy yourself such a small book. And no matter where you are, you try to write it down immediately as soon as the Nephilim have called through, who basically want to bind you to the matrix, who want to make you think negatively, who want to make you give up, who say it doesn't bring anything anyway. And then clearly get it under control that you eventually get so angry when you see the end result that you say, that's enough now guys, I have no desire. I am half Nephilim maybe, but I no longer want to serve you. And I am also originally connected to the source. That means I can always make the decision with my free will to go home. Only then you have to do it. You can give them very clear instructions. You can completely lose it, and you can also say, yes, I've done it 10 times now, it's not working. I still have the nephew in mind. Yes, then you can make another mark on the right side for the nephews, because the thought is not yours again. Because from the source itself, you get so much support. If you start the journey home and take one step, then your higher 10 parts take 10. As I've told you before, giving up is not an option. Only nephews do that who can't imagine taking even one more step. They prefer to go backward, to return to where they were instead of moving forward and really doing what needs to be done. Contrary to their own ego ideas, making decisions is absolutely necessary. And that's why my question to you, if you're watching this video, are you really ready to let go of everything at any time? And if your soul demands it, to detach from everything tomorrow? to 99%? Are you really ready for that? Or where have you gotten stuck? Where have you bitten down? Where has the Nephilim grabbed you and held you in the frequency, perhaps in a necessary development, so that you can no longer have certain experiences? And what are you tired of? I'm so tired, I don't want to go on. It's all so exhausting, it's always so exhausting. Please make another mark on the Nephilim side. All these inputs are not from your soul. Your soul is always there when it is content, when it is grateful, when you meet people you can serve. And even if they are Nephilim or half humans, we won't distinguish because we can only serve. I'm constantly reminding you how you originally behaved, or how you need to behave to get back into the frequency so you can come home. And I know you have resistance and that I am cursed, spat on, punished, and attacked a lot by the Nephilim. Even my children are constantly, because you don't like what I say or what Renee says or what we simply do. We are attacked, you can't imagine it, with exactly what I've just told you, with inputs and thoughts that are intense. You can't handle it all day. But these inputs, thoughts only come when certain people are in our field. They disappear when they leave again. It's totally crazy. I want you to observe all day whether these are your thoughts or where they come from. If you find that you have a neighbor who has these thoughts or a landlord who has these thoughts, then don't be surprised that you're not moving forward. You have to move out and move on until you find a place where your scene is so loud that it's easier for you to make the marks on the left side of your chart. Find it. Find the guidance of your soul. Where is the voice the loudest? Step aside and look at it from the side, where you are right now. Because it's not about the third density. It's not about what you want. Once again, everything you want is controlled by the Nephilim and their followers in the Matrix. And everything that is in the Matrix, whether it's the billboards with half-naked women, whether it's billboards with food and whatever is in your head. You want to ride the carousel again, I don't know what comes up. It's all not from your soul. Your soul wants you to be happy from the bottom of your heart. And many of you can't even imagine that anymore. They have long since given up because the guidance, the spiritual guidance of the Nephilim is already so great that you are content with what you have. When I hear that, it doesn't sound like being content. It doesn't sound like I'm content with what I have. I've worked enough now. My money is enough until the end of my life. I'm content with my life. You know, there are always positive and negative sides. No, that's not how it sounds when a soul is happy and speaks through you. It sounds completely different. So with Vani, for example, you can hear the soul speaking how grateful it is. So it's just a big difference. When your soul is in you, you have this aura that everyone can see from at least 6 miles away that you are content. And you don't just radiate that for one day, but you radiate it for the rest of your life when your soul is content with you. There are no fluctuations. There are certainly fluctuations where you are tired, where you are exhausted, where you can't go on because there are just so many Nephilim vampires that you don't know where your energy is going if it doesn't stay with you. But that doesn't mean that you won't get more. So the energy always recharges itself and it always goes on. And moving forward always means letting go. And the next step forward always only goes. Do you notice that? Well, I've said that many times, but there are many here who haven't attended my seminars yet. If you want to move forward, you have to close the door behind you, the old one, so that you can even see the new one. Many Nephilim tend to lead your mind in you. So they say, okay, I'll see how it goes. It always has to be with certainty. Think very surely, if you have this job now and maybe something new opens up for me, then I would be ready to change. Otherwise, I'll stay where I am. I'll keep the house, I'll keep the car, I'll keep the partner. These 5 pillars, family, health, partner, you know, all 5 fingers, the full hand, and for the relationship to continue because nothing new has come up yet. That's not how it works, my dears, not at all. I've had so many people in my practice who were really slapped by their soul. So I would always say, but also positively, because they wouldn't have changed otherwise. So a young man, for example, I still remember he had a complete nervous breakdown. He came in and said, this doesn't exist at all. Just now my life was completely in order. I was totally happy, content, in his head. But I don't believe it, he said. This morning my girlfriend broke up with a love letter. He found it next to his bed and that was it. She left, then he goes to work, gets his termination in the afternoon, then goes down to the car, it won't start, car broken and so on. Checked the bank account, no money left and so on. And it went on and on, no matter what he did. His mother went to the hospital, no matter what, he didn't understand it anymore. It happened so quickly that the soul cornered him that he was checkmated on purpose, so he couldn't continue living this life. So you get really cornered, something doesn't work anymore, and you should stop working against it. If you are a soul and something in your 5 pillars doesn't work anymore, so the partnerships don't work anymore, the job doesn't work the way you imagine it, that you can derive your income from it, and it starts to become difficult. And you start fighting against everything possible and maybe defending yourself or wanting to stay there. And begging the boss and whatever. Or you try to stay with your parents even though they have long since said that they are not interested in your consciousness. And that you should just come for the birthday, even though you just don't feel like going there anymore and everything is already resisting that you have to write these Christmas cards again because you just don't feel like unpacking your Christmas tree anymore. All these things, everything that resists you, just don't do them anymore. Stop. Especially if you say, I can't watch these videos anymore, they make me sick, this negative energy. I don't want to hear the news anymore, the negative ones. Then don't listen to them anymore. Make a very clear decision. Just don't do it anymore. But don't try to fight to keep the old, because the soul does it on purpose, that it... Watch out, we are currently on the wrong track. You are no longer on your life mission. I have to take the energy away from you in that area so that you realize that you have to let go of it, so that I can take the energy from this path to open a new door for you. I know that this has a lot to do with basic trust to take this step, but that's what I'm asking you to do today. Have basic trust. It was the same in my whole life, and I'm not talking about any books. I don't know anymore if anyone wrote it like that. I only know that it worked like that in my life, that I was also naturally exposed to these inner fears every time and said, okay, I'm saying it now, I don't feel like it anymore. I can't stand the face in my department anymore. I don't want to have anything to do with the colleague anymore. I reported my boss to the HR department and I didn't care because I said, then just fire me. If they don't appreciate me, if they don't know what's going on, then I'll leave. Then I'm not worth staying there. And bam, they kept me there. And it always opened the door again until I quit myself because I said I don't want to anymore. It doesn't feel good in the morning anymore. The alarm clock rings and I don't feel like getting up and going there. Then something is wrong. Then change something. Your soul, when it is in soul guidance in its life mission, does nothing that torments and tortures its soul, but it does something that it enjoys, that it shares with others, and that brings joy to others. And from joy comes the happiness of the soul. And with that, it goes on a journey. It follows the flow of love and gratitude. That's an antenna, isn't it? And where do you end up then? What do you think? Do you think you'll end up on the street? Seriously, do you really think that? That's not possible, because somewhere at some corner there will be a soul standing that will stop you, that will offer you something, that will tell you a direction. And even if it's just a sentence, watch the movie Celestine again. Everything is shown there. I want to give a current example of how crazy the laws of resonance are and how crazy everything is a matrix that doesn't just belong to the Nephilim. But the Nephilim play their game just like don't get angry in here. And they try to throw you out and checkmate you. Just an example. My current life partner René was in the sea. There were huge waves there. And he was there and had a hair tie in his hair. He forgot to take it off. Anyway, a wave hit him really hard and the hair tie was gone. And he said, too bad, I forgot to take it off. I didn't manage to do it in time. Until we went for a walk by the sea and just talked about things, about footprints. Then we looked at the footprints on the beach and at some point I said, let's go back for a moment, 2 meters. I want to look at the footprints again. And we were very far away from the place where he lost the hair tie. But when we turned around, took 4 steps back and then turned around again and continued on the path back to where we came from. Suddenly a big wave came and annoyingly washed away all our made footprints so that we couldn't see them anymore. And lo and behold, what was right in front of René's feet? His hair tie. Now explain to me that this is a coincidence. Explain to me that the sea just gives it back like that at a completely different place at the right moment. Because we wouldn't have gotten it if I hadn't turned around and walked back 4 steps and then walked forward again. then it would have landed just behind us. It was washed up right in front of his right foot with the wave, unharmed. So everything you do has a consequence and a result. And there are no coincidences. There are no coincidences. So you don't need to be afraid at all that you'll be ruined or that you won't have your standard of living anymore. If you need it, you'll get it. So let go of that in your head. Let go of the Nephilim who wants the tiled bathroom up to the ceiling. You can't buy anything with that. In the end, after your passing, you have only so many days left to live. You can calculate it. It's not funny. Wake up, you're not getting younger, and your physical condition isn't getting better either. The quality of the soul is the only thing you have left in the end. Therefore, finally wake up. Decide for the guidance of your soul and return home. And each of us would also respect if you say, no, my mind is just too weak. My spiritual guidance is too weak. I'll stay with the Nephilim. Then do it, but then let it go too. And then decide for the path with the Nephilim. And I didn't say that the path home is easy. And I also didn't say that we are here on earth to have fun, to be happy, to enjoy life. Guys, those are sayings from the Nephilim. How can you be deeply happy in this place, on this earth, with everything that happens here on this earth? How many people and children are tortured, tormented, eaten, sacrificed every day? How many animals eat each other, from the worm to the bird to the cat and to the larger animals? It's all about eating and being eaten, about energy theft. I've said that before. It's a battleground for energy. And you want to be in seventh heaven in the middle of this battleground, or how permanently? It doesn't work if you get this damn Matrix program out of your head. Rosamunde Pilcher inputs in Hollywood programming of Sleeping Beauty and her prince who kisses her awake. People, let it go. Throw the prince out of your head and look around at what's running around, and what they've done with the men and what they've done with the women. Either you're dealing with a magician or a witch. Almost. There's almost nothing else anymore, except for all the alien races that are still running around here. And then please find a Dava or a Deva, and then be grateful if you find one. We've always been very, very few. And so you get a picture of how few we really are. Look at it when you're flying over the earth in an airplane. Look at these vast expanses of meadows, forests, mountains. And just the landmass. Look at how much of it there is. Everything lives in it, especially when no light comes in. How much of it is there? A lot. And now look at the places on earth where there are flowers in all colors, where butterflies fly, where there is the delicate, loving, lovely feminine. How much of it is there on earth? How much is there in percentage? How many flowers do you find on a walk in the woods? How many flowers do you find in a meadow these days? Where are the fairies and elves? Where have the devas gone? We are hardly to be seen anymore. And it's a great, great fortune if you can still hold a flower in your hand, if there are even still bouquets of flowers. If anyone can even be interested in the fact that we Devas exist. And that's the war. The Devas against the Asuras. The Asuras are the nephews. Nowadays there are entire hotel chains called Assura. Unbelievable, I've seen it all. But you don't see anything of the Devas far and wide. They have disappeared into nature. They want to get away from human life. They have simply submerged. They are not on the hardcore internet all day. Or how is it? They don't do that. They can't handle it because they are there for nature. They are one. They try to restore harmony. They are people who serve and are very sensitive and are abused from top to bottom. But that doesn't mean that all of them are something. Of course, there are also Nephilim who play this victim program and pretend to be self-sacrificing. And then they get their energy from others, so don't confuse it. And yet, there are these fine elves and these fairies, and there are few of them. And if you meet one, you should be kind to her, respect and honor her, because she is in the absolute minority here on this earth. But that's enough for us. As I said in the first video, we don't have to be so many. But when we meet, we multiply exponentially, and you should use this energy. The group formation is very clear. The Devas also work together in a unit, and that's why the path alone will be difficult, but together it is not easy either. And yet carrying each other is easier. But if it is not meant for you to meet a Deva, then accept it. Then there is a reason, because everyone has a plan down here. Oh yes, and for your information in conclusion, right? Reality is not what we see, but what you can perceive yourself. And what you can perceive is the mirror from within. That means everything you think you are, or what you think exists around you, is an empty space. Just an empty space held by energy and information by everyone else who maintains the space with their information, what they think. And everything you see or think you see is an interpretation. An interpretation accompanied by fears and also beliefs about what you experience, why things happen. For example, so many things are not negative at all. As I said with the hair tie, you could have been annoyed about these footprints being washed away, that the hair tie disappeared, that it was sunk in the sea. No, maybe it needed to be cleaned. Maybe it needed to carry something else in his hair now. In any case, the hair tie is now something very special. And it's a ring that gave him something back. Maybe the unity he needed in his head. Whatever the reason these things happen, the circle stands for infinite unity. The matrix is a form of symbolic language. And in conclusion, you only see things when you are ready for them. Before that, you just don't see it. So it's clear that all the supposed big problems you have in your life right now are exactly what you need right now. So there's no reason to get upset about it, but just to know that you only create as many problems as you can create solutions. You just have to keep going. Big problems, a big change is coming. Close the doors behind you and wait until you see the new ones, until they are shown to you, until they are communicated to you, until someone else brings the idea to you. Or you come up with it yourself in the bathroom. That's why the bathroom is always the best room, because you have to let go of a lot there. And good ideas always come there. You remember things you had long forgotten. So just try to find your place within yourself and with yourself. Be at peace, in harmony, and in gratitude with yourself. Find plenty of time for meditation and introspection. Then you understand the world outside better. And it's not that you're too weak. All those negative thoughts, erase them, make a tally, and in the end, tear up the agreements you've made with this Nephilim, reclaim everything, and start fresh every morning. Do this every day, 7 days a week, and I'm really interested in what comes out of it for you. And then you'll know what you've agreed to over the years. Erase it, end it, speak your intentions independently. I've taught you all of this, I've given you all my knowledge, and now apply it with love and gratitude. See you soon.